South Park. And I remember telling a friend of mine this, and he instantly looked at me, and I never thought of it like this. He said, dude, South Park has more life lessons than any other show on television these days. And the thing is, he's actually kind of right about that. I love watching this show. It is funny. It's a funny show. There are... I can't even name my favorite episode. There's too many. Like that's how good it is. It's too good of a show. And with the 18th season coming up next week, I am hyped. I can't wait. I'm really excited for what they're going to do. Are they going to do an episode about the Ice Bucket Challenge? Are they going to do an episode about this or about this and this? I don't know what they're going to do. They'll probably do something. The episodes that stick out in my head are, there's too many to count. I'm trying to think of some. The one where they make fun of Hurricane Katrina when the dam breaks. No, I broke the dam. No, I broke the dam! I remember that. The one with Michael Jackson, I remember. Not the Dead Celebrities one, the first one. The one where he's like, Michael Jefferson. Jefferson's my name. Yeah, that one I like. I like that one a lot. The one where they make fun... Okay, you know what? I got it. One of my favorite episodes, the one that I literally lost it, is Fat Butt and Pancake Head. The one where Cartman, you know, Jennifer Lopez! And for a while, I didn't know if he was really serious about doing that, or if he knew what he was doing, or if he didn't know. I don't know. But that whole episode... Oh, man. It's incredibly racist, but I don't know, it's funny. Oh my god, there's just there's too many good episodes. There's way too many. Make Love Not Warcraft is another one. I love that one. Yeah, there's just so much. It's that good of a show. It's about 4 boys who live in one effed up town. That's the show. That's the show, pretty much. For the last 17 to 18 years, that's the show. I just love, like, it's just so funny. It's a funny show. Next one. 8 Simple Rules. Okay, now, when this show first aired, my parents and my sister always watched it on television. I did not. And this is back when it first aired, so this is like 2002, 2003, around that time. I never watched it. I never did. I remember how it went. They would watch that show, and then they would watch Joan of Arcadia. Remember that show? They would watch that, and then they would watch some other shows that got canceled. I don't even remember them. But anyway, I didn't start watching the show until about 5 years ago, 2009. I went on YouTube, and someone uploaded some of the episodes, and I watched them. And I found out that this was a really funny show. It was actually pretty funny. It's a show about these 3 kids and their father, played by John Ritter, and it's basically the whole... I mean, you've seen this before in a lot of sitcoms, where the father doesn't want his daughter, his attractive, hot daughter, to be dating guys. You know, there's always like, oh, I gotta meet this guy first. You know, let me see if he's up to the challenge of dating my daughter. It's like one of those, but it's so funny.
Who are you? Anthony W. Yo, what's up, dog? B to the KB here?
I'm sorry, what letters did you want again?
Bridget and Carrie, shoot. Ain't this that crib? Y'all got to bounce, dog. My partners and I be bending over to the factory to catch my dog DJ Cavassier spin. But what for she's, yo?
Oh, who's that?
Jehovah's Witness.
And I actually never thought John Ritter could be really funny, because I've never really seen Three's Company before. I know he was a big star on that show, but I've never really seen that. So when I watched 8 Simple Rules, it was really, really hilarious. I mean, there were a lot of jokes that were funny. Kaylee Cuoco's in the show from The Big Bang Theory. I didn't even know she was in this. It's interesting to see her and how young she is in this. I love the kid who plays Rory, the younger brother. He's a riot. It's just a really, really funny show about what could happen, and it's interesting. But in the second season, John Ritter passed away, and they had to find out what to do with his character. And he did the first 3 episodes in season 2, and they aired on television after he died. And then they did that goodbye part 1 and part 2. They had to kill his character off. And I gotta say that, like, I don't care if 20 years has gone by since that episode aired, you will cry your eyes out to that. It is a great tribute, not only to his character and what they did with his character in that, but to the man himself, because this guy was a truly funny actor, comedian, just all-around great guy is what everyone said. And it's really sad that he still isn't here with us anymore. I mean, it's been, 11 years now? Something like that. He's still... I mean, like, I watch that show all the time. It feels like he never did die. It feels like he's still around and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like that. That's how big of an impact this show had on me, even at age 16. It's a funny show. And I saw this show right when I was starting out production on Heavy Duty, when it was originally going to go out on the air in 2009. So this was a show that I really watched and paid attention to. Was the show any good after John Ritter died? No, not really. It still had a couple of funny moments here and there, but it was never the same after he passed away, because John Ritter was the star of the show. Let's put that right out there. He was the star. And the first season, I have the first 2 seasons on DVD. I watch them all the time. The 3rd and final season, they haven't released yet, I guess because maybe nobody watched that season, because right after that season aired, it got canceled. 8 Simple Rules. Definitely recommend it. Next one. The Defenders. This was a show that only lasted 1 season. Why? Why? This was the first... Here's the thing. I do not like dramas that much. I'm not a drama guy. There's maybe a couple of shows out there I like that are dramas. This was a show that combined drama, the whole court element thing, you know, with lawyers, and comedy. And it was great. It really held my attention. I'm not a fan of, like, hour-long TV shows. I'm not that big a fan of Criminal Minds. I'm not a fan of Law and Order. I'm not into that stuff. I'm just not. The Defenders, starring Jim Belushi and Jerry O'Connell, these 2 actors that I really like, and work surprisingly well with each other as these 2 characters. This is a really funny, well-organized show. And the fact that CBS canceled it after 1 season, I was so looking forward to this show coming back, and it got tanked. Why? I just don't know why. If you guys want to see this show, it's on Netflix. I think it's still on Netflix, I don't know. But I remember watching it one time when it was on Netflix, but I watched it when it came on the air. Between 2010 and 2011, this show was the show I watched every Wednesday night. And then it moved to Friday nights. But when I watched it every Wednesday night at 10 o'clock, I always did. And let me basically give you the story of this. Okay. Nick Morelli is Jim Belushi and Pete Kasmarek as Jerry O'Connell. These are 2 lawyers that get together and are basically defense attorneys, but they both work together as a team, basically. Like, when you call up a lawyer, you call the both of them, or you can call one of them, it doesn't matter. But it really, like, this was the first show I had seen where they do a court drama show, but from the lawyer's point of view, and especially a defense attorney's point of view. So when these guys are trying to defend their clients, guilty or not guilty, they're still trying to see all the pieces and try to ask a lot of questions and stuff like that. And they do it with comedy. And it's not like a laugh-out-loud comedy show. There are comedy elements into it, especially from Jerry O'Connell's character. But there's a lot of really interesting conversations they have. There's a lot of scenes that they have with their new... I don't want to say secretary. No. It's the new person on their team, Lisa. They have a lot of conversations with her, and she goes out and tries to help them out with their, the whole situation where they're trying to defend their clients. I remember one episode they had a client where he was actually guilty, and they knew he was guilty, And they couldn't come out and say that he was guilty, because as a defense attorney, you're not allowed to do that. You have to actually do it. So they were trying to have him sink his own ship, which was a really interesting way of working with this whole thing, because this is a show that you really didn't get that often. And I liked these characters. I really did. I liked the stories that they had. And it was really hard for these writers to come up with all this, because every week they had to come up with a whole new story for these cases that these attorneys had to go through. And it's just a really good show. It's about these two Vegas lawyers who help out their clients. Guilty or not guilty, that's the show. And if you have a chance to watch it, watch it. It's a really good show. It's one of my favorite. I mean, this was a show that I thought I wasn't going to get into, but I said, well, I'll give it a try. And after I saw the pilot, I was hooked. Why did it get canceled after one season? It was a great show. I don't know why. Diff'rent Strokes. I came across this show completely by accident, okay? I'll tell you what happened. I was 7 years old, and I was vacationing with my family in Florida. And I was turning around, watching the usual stuff on television, and the Brady Bunch was on. And I didn't watch a lot of television shows at that age, because most of the shows I watched at that age only came on during the day, particularly PBS shows. So at night, there really wasn't much on. And I remember the first episode I ever saw of this show. It was the one where Arnold has his goldfish, Abraham, and he's throwing a birthday party for his goldfish. And his goldfish, spoiler alert, passes away. And that whole episode, I remember watching that and just really laughing really hard to that episode. And about 5 years later, the show, before YouTube and before all that stuff, when On Demand was still pretty new, there was this thing on Demand, on Comcast On Demand, it was called at that point, not Xfinity. There was this section called Tube Time. And on Tube Time, they had all these shows on there. Diff'rent Strokes, Maude, The Three Stooges, just a lot of good 70s shows. Facts of Life, all these great 70s shows. And Diff'rent Strokes was on there, and I would click it and watch it, and I started really watching the show, because I hadn't seen it in a while. And I just laughed and laughed. I just love Gary Coleman in this show, and I think since the show went off the air, he's gone through a lot of, well, not just him, like all the kids on that show went through really tough things, drug addiction, suing their parents, I think, at one point. I don't know. But aside from all that stuff, this is a really funny show. The early seasons, I would say, are my favorite. I love the show when Mrs. Garrett was on. That was when it was, that was the best part of the show. So, season 1 to halfway through season 2. Because I think Charlotte Rae left the show to do the Facts of Life around that point, halfway through the second season of Diff'rent Strokes. But nevertheless, it was still funny. There are a lot of good, much like the Brady Bunch, I would say there are a lot of family lessons in it. And here's the thing. For its time, this was a very controversial thing to do on television. Now, this was a show where a white guy adopts two black boys, which at the time, you have to remember the times here, in the late 70s, this was a very controversial thing to do. Maybe not as controversial as to do it in the 60s, but still, it was a big thing. And it's so funny. Every time I watch this show, I always laugh so hard to it. The audience, I'm guessing it's a laugh track because they turn those laughs up really loud, which as a 12-year-old kid, when I started really watching the show and taking a look at it, I was laughing just as hard as that audience was, whether it was real or not, I don't know. But if you guys really want to get a lot of laughs out of this show, watch the first season, watch the second season. I'd say watch the rest of the seasons, but they're barely on DVD, because here's what happened. They released the first season and then the second season, and then they stopped. And I'm guessing because not a lot of people bought the DVD sets. I hear seasons 3 and 4 recently got released, finally, after a long, brief period of time, but seasons 5, 6, 7, and 8 haven't been released. And I hear that the later seasons weren't that good, because this show eventually did end up getting canceled. It didn't, end. it got canceled. So I would say give this show a viewing. It's really, really funny, and I'll leave you guys on this note because y'all know this is coming.
What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Willis?